Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Jessica Probst, and I'll be your host today. I hope you all aren't going too stir crazy out there. To keep myself busy, I tried my hand at adopting a few plant buddies, and after about a month of my boyfriend trying to convince me that I was setting already dead plants on the windowsill to get sunlight, I have finally come to acceptance that I cannot raise plants, so I am very envious to all of you out there with a green thumb. Today we're going to get into the warning signs of sexually abusive partners, followed by a guide on when it's time to pursue a new relationship, and we will also be talking about love language, what is it, and how does it play a part in your relationship, and then we'll wrap up with my top 5 dating apps for 50 plus, so be sure to stick around for that. So my own personal story regarding sexually abusive relationships started when I was 17, and we all do really stupid things when we're young. So my stupid thing was I went on it wasn't even a dating app, it was a pen pal app. I went online and I found myself a boyfriend in Korea. And at first, it really wasn't meant to be a relationship. It was completely online. I was just making friends. And then there was one guy that I just talked to consistently, and his name was Keon. And about 4 months down the road, after we had started talking, he asked if I would be his girlfriend. So I said, yeah, sure, because I am a 17-year-old girl and I want to experience love and meet somebody outside of America and go travel the world. So I said yes, and the problem is he was 24 and I was 17. And age really isn't the problem here. It's the distance and his expectations and my expectations. They didn't exactly match, and we never talked about that. But I ended up moving to South Korea later that year, after I graduated high school. And I visited there first for a week as like a tourist and just ventured around. The first time I had met Kian was actually at the airport, and he picked me up. And I know that's not the smartest thing to do, but it was also the cheapest way to go. So I did that. And there was no problems with that first week. He did force a kiss in our first week, which was kind of really awkward for me at the time, but it's like looking back, it was just a kiss. And then I moved there 1 month later, September 1st of 2017, and I was still 17 years old at that time. So I wasn't even a full-grown adult. I was in my teens and fresh out of high school, didn't have any family in Korea. My only friends were like 2 guy pen pals and 1 girl pen pal. And this became a problem very quickly because I did not realize how jealous Kian would be of my male friends. And he started becoming very overprotective. And there were times when he would ask to go through my messages, and I would let him go through my messages. And one day I left my laptop open, and he accessed my Kakao texting map, which is the most popular texting map in Korea. And he didn't ask me to look at those, but he went through them and he decided that I was talking to other guys too often, which really wasn't that often at all. So he decided to break up with me, and I was devastated because I was 17. I was just learning the language. I didn't even know how to withdraw money from my bank account yet. I needed his help to navigate my new home. So I was completely reliant on him. And he came back a couple days later and said, look, I'm sorry for breaking up with you. We can stick together as long as you cut off all ties with all of your friends. And I was like, yeah, that's a great deal. Let's do it. Because I was just so excited that he was willing to be my boyfriend again. And he was willing to help me again. But along with this came nights where I would feel like I had to let him stay at my house because he lived an hour away. And subways in Korea, they close at 12:30 in the morning and don't open until 5:30 in the morning. And if he stayed late, it would be a very expensive taxi ride for him to go back. So I just let him stay in my studio apartment with me. And it started out as him asking to have sex. And I would say, no, I'm not ready for that. Like, that's not what I'm looking for yet. I'm too young. And it started, maybe once a week he would ask. And it became like multiple times a week. It became conversations over text message. It became him asking and waking me up in the middle of the night. And then finally, I guess he got so fed up with it that he would just take on the decision to do it by himself. Meaning he would take me out to dinner and we would have a few drinks. We'd come home. I'd fall asleep. I'd wake up and, oh my God, he was trying to have sex with me. And I would kick him off, try to go back to bed and just brush it off. Because to me, this seemed very normal because he made it feel very normal. He guilted me into making me feel like I was supposed to be having sex with him. And he made it seem like I owed it to him for everything that he was doing for me, for any gifts that he brought me, for any food that he bought me, even just to hanging out with me and spending a day with me. He made me feel like I owed it to him to make him feel sexually satisfied. He was also very upset because I was making him wait. He would point out that he was getting older and he didn't want to wait for me to grow up. He wanted me to just give in and to have sex with him. He would also use alcohol as a way to make me more lenient towards decision making, but I still held my ground every single time that we did have sex. I never gave him consent. So I tried to move into a new place. My way of fixing this was just to find a roommate and to be somewhere safe and secure where he couldn't keep doing this because it would be too noisy. So I moved 1 month later into a new apartment with a roommate. And I was like, great, this is awesome. This means he's not going to stay over anymore. He's not going to, even if he does stay over, he's not going to be loud. He'll get it because he's conservative. He's, that's very common in their culture there. And we, at first were okay. And about the week after I moved there, it started up again. It was like there was never a roommate there. And there was even one night where I woke up and I realized that he wasn't wearing a condom. He did not have protection. And I was so anxiety-ridden that I threw myself off the bed, ran into the bathroom, and just threw up in the toilet. And it was just such an awful and terrifying feeling because I was afraid and I was alone and I didn't have friends. I didn't have anybody I could go to talk to, all because he was cutting me off from them. And what ended up happening was I bought a ticket to go back to the U.S. and I came home, and the moment I came home, I messaged him now that because I was safe, I was far away from him, I could handle myself, there wasn't anything he could really do about me being back home now. It was time to break up with him. And after that, I never talked to him again. Luckily, I am a survivor of sexual abuse, so I'm very happy to say that now I am much better. Reflecting on all the decision making I did while I was in that scenario, I feel so dumb, but I don't blame myself, and I certainly don't pity myself. But it did leave me with 3 years of trying to overcome this, ongoing depression, anxiety just from intimate touch, and like hesitation to start a new relationship. It really destroyed relationships for me. But it took time, and it wasn't until I met my current partner and he introduced me to the concept of love language, which we'll talk about later on in the show. And this helped me understand that, like, each time he would go in for a kiss or he was coming to give me a hug while I was making dinner, it wasn't a precursor to sex. It was his way of saying I love you through physical touch, something, like I said, we'll go over later on in the show. But sexual abuse is something that it's not uncommon. Many people just don't recognize it, especially in its early stages, or they dismiss it altogether. And I think that it's definitely something that should be talked about because it's overlooked so often, and just dismissed. Speaking from my own personal experience, this can leave a lot of trauma on somebody. The amount of manipulation the victim is put through in a sexually abusive relationship just causes so much mistrust in others, and it really destroys relationships for that person. Reflecting on it, I really should have seen in the way that he was trying to guilt me, and especially the way that he cut me off from my friends, that he was definitely looking to do something more sinister. And it wasn't all about just love for him. It was about his own sexual needs and desires. And that's not a healthy relationship. We're going to take a short break before getting into what sexual abuse in relationships can look like and warning signs to avoid them. Coming up next.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
The GSMC Sex Podcast is a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet. Download the GSMC Sex Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you can find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We just discussed my personal story and reflection on a serious relationship that turned into a sexually abusive relationship. So let's discuss what a sexually abusive relationship might entail, what the warning signs are. This topic is one that is easy to want to avoid, but we need to understand and be able to identify these relationships for ours and others' best interests. I did take the time to do my research on this, and I found out for you guys that according to the NCADV, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 7 men have come forward as sexual abuse victims, and an even more unsettling ratio of 1 in 5 women reported sexual abuse from their partner. So the quote-unquote success of the offender is achieved by permeating different tactics throughout the relationship to shame or guilt their partner. And sometimes it's done so gradually it can go unnoticed for days, weeks, even years of a relationship. And this sort of gradual introduction to different tactics that they're using, this allows the partner to actually lay roots down over time so that the victim develops their own reasons to feel like they need to stay committed to their abusive partner. One of the most common behaviors that should strike warning is the use of sexual coercion. This is the idea that they're trying to be persuasive or forceful. There's a lot of different ways that you can use sexual coercion to try to convince somebody to have sex with you. One is just pressuring after the victim says no. This could be something like the common, "Come on, please," or it could be throughout the course of a day, even weeks. But your partner should respect your decisions not to have sex. And if you are facing this issue with your partner, it's best to sit down and discuss with them your feelings and kind of why you don't want to have sex. Now, another part of sexual coercion is instilling fear in the victim that if they decline sex, something bad will happen. For example, if you don't have sex with me, I'll break up with you. That's a really common one. Otherwise, things like threats all the way to blackmail, this could be another part of instilling fear in the victim. Another really common trait is convincing the victim as if they owe their partner sex. For example, they might buy them a fancy dinner or a good gift and consider that a reason that they should perform sexual activity with them. Or they could say something like, "It's been 3 weeks. I don't care if it's been 3 weeks or 3 years. Your body is your body, and your partner should respect your decisions." Another one is drugging or alcohol. I talked about that in my own story. They use it to influence the victim's decision-making and sometimes just completely knock them out. A partner trying to use sexual coercion, they might react negatively if their partner tells them they don't want to have sex, and even might try to have sex with the partner in ways that will harm them, such as like while the victim is sick, using unwanted force, or doing certain sexual activities that are considered off limits to the victim. Some of the more common signs to watch out for if you do suspect your partner of being sexually abusive is the instilling of mind games. It's convincing you that you're crazy, that everything is made up and you're just going way out of proportion. Essentially, this could also be them saying, "Get over it." It's minimizing that their actions are not as bad as the victim is making them out to be. And sexual abuse could also be related with things like personality disorder, in which they only see themselves as right. They refuse to get help for it because they don't think that there's anything wrong with what they're doing. This could also reflect in their denial, or if they're making excuses or criticizing others even. And when I say making excuses, a lot of people don't totally understand what that means. And a great example is from my own personal story where Kian would constantly say, "I'm 24, I'm getting old, you're so young that you should just come up to my age." And that's really not an excuse for me to have sex with him or anybody to have sex with anybody. Age does not matter. There's no amount of reasoning that should be an excuse. Something really major to look out for, too, is if your partner is trying to restrict you from your friends, your family. It can even go as far as work or any social situation. Oftentimes, this is because they don't want you to start spilling information that you are unhappy with your relationship, or even just give off like vibes that you're not being your regular self. They don't want your loved ones and the people that know you to catch on to that, because that's really going to ruin it for them. And when you do start acting weird, your family, if they catch on to that, the fingers of blame are going to start pointing at your partner, especially if you have formerly expressed troubles with your relationship. So, just to recap, things to look out for are sexual coercion, mind games, denial, minimizing, blaming, making excuses, criticism, restrictions from friends, family, work, or other social situations, threats to harm a victim's loved ones, and overprotection. Now, overprotection, this is when the abusing partner is over-controlling and they just always need to know what the victim is doing. They have their arm around them in public at all times. They are just protective of them no matter what. They need to know where they're going, what they're doing, with who, why, when. It's all the questions. And generally, this is a tactic they use so that they can keep tabs on their partner. The reason that sexual abuse in a relationship is so often overlooked is because all of the victims have felt attachment to that person, whether it's a need to save themselves, save a family member because they're in danger, or if it's even just they love that person or they're in love with being in a relationship. They don't want to be single again, or they're dependent on their partner. And when they have that dependency, oftentimes they are hesitant to actually reach out for help or to tell somebody that these are problems, especially when the partner in the wrong is telling them that all of this is normal, because why would you go out and try to get help for something that's completely normal? But there's a major difference between sex and sexual abuse when you're looking at two people that are trying to make it work in a relationship. Sex is a commitment that both parties are making. They are both consenting and willing and doing things that will be accepted and reciprocated by each other. But sexual abuse is when one party is making all the decisions and party B is just completely not consentive. They are more than likely getting harmed by this, and it's just not okay. Relationships are a two-way street. So if you suspect like you're instilling these kind of behaviors onto your partner, it's definitely good to reach out and talk to a therapist, talk to a doctor, and see how you can manage this. And talk to your partner too, because communication is number one when it comes to a relationship. If you do suspect these signs in yourself or in somebody else, it is very important that you do reach out for help. There are plenty of help centers across the United States, around the world, that are willing to help out with sexual abuse. And if you're looking for complete anonymity, you can dial the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-4673. If you are experiencing extreme circumstances, that's something where you are actually being harmed, you are in harm's way, you expect immediate danger, or even you have a loved one who might be at risk, there are emergency services and the police will be willing to help out. So if you do experience immediate danger, please call 911. Otherwise, you can visit the NCADV, that's the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, for information on how you can help yourself or someone you know if you suspect any of these signs within their relationship. Whew, this has been a heavy topic, and I am so sorry for that, but it's something that definitely needed to be talked about. So I know this has been really, really dark, but let's move on now to a new, lighter topic. Coming up after the break, we're going to discuss when it might be a good time to get back out there and start dating again after you have gone some time without dating or after a bad breakup. So grab a bowl of popcorn, a glass of wine, and we will be right back after the break.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
We just finished discussing the very heavy topic, but very important topic of sexually abusive relationships. So moving on to new horizons, let's talk about signs that you are ready to find love again. We have all hit that point in our life when your family just starts pestering you about your dating life. They try to set you up, they suggest dating sites, and express their insatiable desire for more grandchildren. But when do you know when it's time to get back out on the field? Like, actually out on the field. So here's a few tips that I recommend when you are trying to decide if you're wanting to start dating again. Definitely, look inward, ask these questions to yourself, and see if you meet the requirements. Number one is accepting your single self. Let's face it, you're single. If you got that down, you are one step closer to getting ready to not be single. This is not staring at the empty side of your bed and being forlorn every morning. This is feeling as though you can completely rely on yourself for basic needs. We're talking money, you got the bank, or you don't have the bank, but at least you can figure it out yourself. You are maybe not the best culinary chef, but you can cook and make substantial food for yourself. Cleaning, your house is not a pigsty. Your living room does not look like a tornado went through it, but you're clean, living in conditions that are suitable for human needs. And you are also taking care of yourself. You feel good. You have you bathe regularly, your fingernails are trimmed, just basic needs to keep yourself looking and feeling good about yourself. Another idea that you want to keep in mind is that you are emotionally stable. Coming into a new relationship and having prior mental issues such as depression, anxiety, eating disorders, those put a lot of strain onto a relationship. Because not only are you trying to heal yourself and your own mental wellness, you're now taking on the emotions of a second person, plus you might actually push your feelings onto them. So it puts so much strain and stress onto relationships that I almost always recommend not going into a new relationship if you're not feeling emotionally comfortable with yourself and overall mentally happy. Do you ever go into your closet and you're cleaning and you just pull out your boyfriend's old t-shirt, not your boyfriend, but your ex's old t-shirt, and it smells like him, it reminds you of him, you start getting teary-eyed as you think of all the times that you went to the movies together and that one time you went to the beach in Guatemala. Well, if you think of that and you start getting angry or you miss them or you regret something, that's not a great sign that you want to get back into a relationship, because items having symbolic meaning to you is a sign that you're not over the person that you were recently or previously with. So once those items, those symbols lose meaning, or they just become completely neutral in your mind, or even if it's just purely a happy memory of something that happened, but it's over and you have no regrets about leaving that person, that is a great sign that you are ready to move on and into a new relationship. So let's say you're going to the coffee shop and you get to the front of the line and you've not been dating recently, you haven't been looking for anybody, but you get to the front and the barista is just drop dead handsome, or God, she's gorgeous. Doesn't matter. If you see them as somebody that you'd like to get to know, that's your body, that's your instincts telling you, hey, it's time to get back on the market. Your DNA is literally telling you that you're seeing other people as potential partners, aka it's time to start dating. And little signals might start going off in your head. It might not all come rushing at you like it did with my little scenario with the barista, but you might start to notice things about people. You might start to notice the way that your neighbor's hair shines in the sun, or the way that the guy walking past you has just an amazing smile. Or you might start to get into conversation with people and feel like you have a really strong connection with them and your heart just starts to beat a little bit more. Well, when that happens, it is just such a great sign that you might be ready to start dating again. And this is such a big question to ask yourself, to internally say, am I ready to put myself out there again is so difficult. But oftentimes we forget of the other option, which is rejection. And rejection is something that's really hard to overcome, especially if it's your first time going back out trying to find a new relationship and your first answer is no. You've built yourself up, you've put yourself on the line, and here is this person with the audacity to tell you that you are not good enough for a relationship with them. Well, that's not what they're saying. They're saying that you are just not the right match. So what's important before getting ready to date again, or as you're getting ready to date again, you want to do little positivity checks with yourself. Check in on your confidence. Make sure that you aren't feeling down about how you look. You aren't criticizing yourself, because all of those criticisms are going to come right back up as soon as you feel as though you've been rejected. If you want to start dating again, you have to prepare. You have to prepare your mind for the possibility that that just might not be the right person for you. No matter how hard you want it, it's not something that can be forced. Now let's talk kind of more physical needs to start dating. Form of transportation. Do you have a place that you can go to watch movies at night, to have Netflix and chill nights? Do you have a phone? Very important if you want to try online dating. So those are some things to check off before you decide if you're ready to start dating again. Another great way to tell is when you are being asked about that girl across the street, or you are being pestered by your friends to go out and have a night at the club and go meet some guys. You no longer feel pressured. You don't feel like this is an obligation. It becomes something that could lead into an opportunity for you. Suddenly, you are excited to find love again, and you are feeling good about meeting somebody new and sharing a part of your life with another human being. And most importantly, have you experienced the single life that you have wanted to experience? Once you get into a relationship, you can't hit the pause button, you can't hit rewind. Some relationships, they do have that agreement, they have open relationships that's just okay with them. But for the most part, don't expect to be able to go into a new relationship and then be able to come in and out of your single life whenever you feel like it. Because a relationship is a commitment. It is time that you are taking out of your day. It's essentially similar to a job. So once you have experienced your single life, once you feel like you've done it all, then you can start to consider the option of actually finding somebody for you. So before you actually decide that you want to go out and find a new partner, think to yourself, have I done it all? Have I done everything I've wanted to do by myself? And have I dated all the people? Have I slept with all the men that I've wanted to sleep with? Have I traveled to Alaska? Have I gone to a small cafe in Paris and sipped a glass of wine as you watch the sunset? So get your single life out of the way. Enjoy every second of it, because there is nothing wrong with being single. But this is a podcast about relationships. So once you are ready to move on, you're done being single, that's when you can actually start to date again. So let's go through the checklist. Get out your notebook, get out your pencil, and we're going to go through my checklist of what it takes to be ready to start dating again. 1, accepting your single self. 2, you are emotionally stable and mentally happy. 3, symbols from a previous relationship are totally neutral to you, or all they bring back are happy memories that you don't yearn for or have any regrets over. 4 is when your little DNA strands are yelling at you saying, hey, it's time to find a new partner, that is viewing other people and considering them as a potential partner. 5 is the feeling that you are totally confident and totally happy with yourself. You're able to face rejection. Number 6 is you no longer feel like you are being pressured to date, and you actually consider it as an exciting opportunity. And last but absolutely not least is enjoy your single life. Make sure you've had plenty of it, because you probably won't be going back. Hopefully you won't be going back. And just enjoy your you time. After a short break, I'd like to share a few tips on what to do now that you have decided you are finally ready to start dating again. Back in a bit.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So, you're ready to start looking for love again. We just talked about how to determine whether or not you're ready for the kind of commitment a relationship requires. But how the heck do you get back into a relationship when you've been out of the game for so long? So here's a few tips that I will advise to you on ways that you can get back into the swing of things. So it might seem kind of robotic, but I highly recommend you actually lay out a plan. You don't necessarily have to write it all down, but it is a great way just to figure out what you're looking for. It's okay to go into detail and figure out what exactly you want in a relationship. It's important to consider what qualities you might need or want in a partner. It's okay to be picky and choosy when you're trying to find somebody that matches you. Are you looking for men, women, both, all of the above? Picture what they might look like. Consider your own obligations and your own limitations. Are you a parent? Do you have kids? What is your job like? Do you have a night shift? Because if you do, that really puts a strain on things when you're trying to date somebody who has a day job. What are your hobbies? How much time do you actually spend doing your hobbies? Is it something that your future partner could do with you? Is it something you would rather do alone? Does it require a lot of travel? That too, for the jobs, is something that's important. Is if your job requires a lot of traveling, your future partner might actually not enjoy that. So just really keep in mind that your own life will really impact your relationship as well, and it'll actually set limitations to who you might end up with. You should also consider like if your religions are compatible, and remember that these aren't just limitations, they're also opportunities for you to find somebody that is the right person. You guys have the same interests, the same tastes in things. And it's not just a setback. It's also really important to pay attention to your heart and your own gut, because your gut knows best. It knows first. So if you go to a club and a guy approaches you and you're like, he's really handsome, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Totally okay to take the chance, but if you're trying to be careful, always listen to your gut, because that is a great way just to narrow down who is right for you. And especially if you are out of education and you're done with high school, done with college, and you don't have many opportunities to meet people, I highly recommend you try a dating app in order to ease your way in. And I love this because you don't even have to correspond. You can just look. It's like window shopping, and now no buying, no commitment. But it also builds confidence. If you do choose to, when you put yourself out there, you're oftentimes going to be taking pictures and putting them onto your profile. You're going to create a bio, and you're just going to remind yourself how great you are. Little egotistical, but it's a great way just to build up a little bit of confidence. You pick out some nice pictures of yourself, you write some good things about yourself, and then even better, other people will like your profile based on what you've chosen about yourself and how you want to portray yourself. So this is not only an opportunity for you to see others, but for them to see you as well. And oftentimes in dating apps, they actually allow you to get an idea of how many people are swiping right on your profile or liking your profile, which can also build a lot of ego too. But it's okay, because a little bit of confidence never hurt anybody. Just don't get too crazy. And by seeing all these other profiles and looking through them, like I said, you don't even have to talk to them. You can just look and get an idea of who and what you're looking for in a person. You start to realize, do you have a certain type? Do you like a certain hair color? Do you like the shape of their eyes, how they smile, what they're doing in their picture, what their bio says? And you can also find people in locations near you, so it's not too much of a hassle to actually go on dates. And sometimes being face-to-face is really flustering, and you get embarrassed easily, and you just start to stutter, and you become a big sweaty mess, and it's no fun for anybody. So if you're like really socially anxious, this is also another great way for you to get some experience. You build experience without the embarrassment of face-to-face interaction. If you have a weird conversation with somebody, you can, as I like to say, yeet and delete, because you don't want to talk to them for whatever reason, and you don't have to, because there's no actual real-life connection there yet. Just remember to be safe. You should always meet in public places. Be smart. Don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. And following up with that, whether or not you do online dating or dating by an app, it doesn't matter. If you do it in person, mixers, you just find somebody, be patient, be choosy. It's okay to be picky about who you want to date. There's nothing wrong with that. People can tell you, your mom can say, oh, you're too picky. But the truth is it's you in the end, and it's your decision making. It's good to listen to what your friends and family and the people that know you well, it's good to listen to what they have to say about your relationship and what they think might be good for you, because they see parts of you that you might not always see, and they see from a third party. But at the end of the day, it's still your relationship and it's your future. So pick somebody that is right for you. Don't settle. Do not settle for less. Settling for less, you're just going to end up breaking somebody's heart or having your heart broken. And why waste time? Don't settle. If you're trying to be in the market, but you don't want to be too implicit about it, try doing some hobbies. Take up a new hobby. Go out and join a yoga class. Try a painting seminar or go to your community soccer field. Even though this might not start a relationship directly, you can meet people that will introduce you to other people, and you're expanding your circle and expanding your opportunities to find that perfect person. Start accepting invitations from your friends to go out, or maybe even your coworkers. Go out, have a good time. You don't always have to be intent on meeting somebody, but going out, letting yourself be with your friends, having fun, it's more comfortable for you to be with people you know, and it just makes it a little bit easier to find somebody new that way. And there's nothing wrong with going to a singles mixer. You should never feel bad about going to a singles mixer, because those people have in common with what you have, which is you're single and you're looking to meet somebody. Maybe a forever partner, maybe not. But they're all condensed into a little room. So what could be better if you're looking for a new partner? But if you are looking for somebody, please, please, please do not bother people at the gym. Don't go to the gym expecting to find the girlfriend or boyfriend of your dreams. This is probably the worst way to go about trying to meet a new date. It's really best just to find a good book and take yourself out for a drink, go to the bar and just read, because this allows you to be open because you're by yourself, so you're a little less intimidating to come up to, but also you're doing something that isn't too immersive for you to take a break and to talk to somebody. If you're currently working from home, don't. Start taking it to different cafes, go to a library. As long as you're meeting new people, you're setting yourself up for natural meets, ways to find that perfect somebody for you that's completely natural. This is great, especially if you're kind of uncomfortable with the idea of meeting somebody through a dating app or a mixer. But if you are feeling very comfortable with the idea of meeting somebody by being set up, try finally accepting that blind date invitation. You never know what will come of it. Just take chances. It'll lead to new horizons for you for sure. Finding love takes so much time, and it takes patience, and everyone has their own style. There is no right way to find a partner. There's no wrong way to try dating and to get back into the dating world. Just don't expect to fall for someone right away, and just enjoy the dating life. Enjoy putting yourself into new situations and getting to know other people, whether it works out or not. Just don't get frustrated. Don't feel bad from rejection. Enjoy it. Do not stress it. So like I said, there are plenty of ways to go about finding a partner, but those are just a few tips I have if you're looking for guidance on how to start dating again, once you are ready, of course. So coming up next, I'll be answering the questions: what the heck is love language, and what does it have to do with my relationship? And after that, I'll be talking about my top 5 dating apps that I suggest if you're looking for a partner and you're over 50. Stay tuned, and we will be right back after a very quick break.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Previously, we were talking about how to know when you're over being single and what to do when you want to pursue a new relationship. You've gotten out of the single life, you've started dating again, and now you're thinking, what the heck is this person thinking? Allow me to give you some tips on how to read your partner's mind. It's called love language. You may have heard of it, and you may have been a skeptic, and trust me, I was too, and that was up until I met my boyfriend, and he's like, you have to take this test. You have to know what love language is. And I just thought it was so silly because he's not a believer in that kind of thing. He doesn't believe in horoscopes. He doesn't believe in astrology. But he was like so adamant, like, you have to take this test. So, of course, I took it because I'm such a great girlfriend. And it came out with acts of service. And I'm like, great, okay, what the heck does that mean? Can I change it to receiving gifts so that I can get more gifts from you? But it turns out that this was actually very accurate, and it helped us both learn a lot about each other. And it got me out of this rut of thinking that every time he came in to intimately touch me, such as like hugging me in the kitchen, giving me a kiss, I used to think that that was him trying to pursue sex, and I didn't realize that that was just his way of saying I love you because his love language is physical touch. So, what is love language? It actually originated in a book by Gary Chapman in 1992, and it is the way one gives and receives love, but broken down into 5 simple categories that are general enough that it fits each individual, but specific enough that you can't be a different category. So the 5 categories are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. It helps a relation by understanding your partner and how they feel loved best. It also helps you understand your own desires. So you can take this test if you're single. What it's going to do for you is really give you an idea of how you want to feel loved, and it gives you an idea of people that will be corresponding to your own love language. And we've all heard of the classic scenario of, why can't he just read my mind? He should just know. And let me tell you, this is the easiest way to convey to your partner how you want to be loved and to understand how they want to be loved back. Not only that, but it also shows you when they're saying that they love you without actually saying the words they love you. Unless you are words of affirmation, which technically saying I love you is saying I love you. And it is so easy to implement this into your own relationship. If you haven't already, take the test and then have your partner take it as well, and be honest, because the more honest you are, the better results you get, the better relationship you're going to have. Everything's going to be magical, rainbows and ponies. It's going to be great. And after both of you have taken the test, share your results with your partner and then learn theirs as well and read up on it. Do some research. Do your research, because this is your commitment to your relationship. And soon you'll start to recognize patterns in the way that they show love. You're going to start recognizing their natural way of showing that they love you. And also just be very conscious of how they will perceive your love in the different ways you show it. So going in depth on each of these, we'll start with words of affirmation. This is putting your thoughts into what you say. This person is designed for extra compliments and double the verbal reminders that you love and appreciate them. And ways that you can show people with words of affirmation as their love language that you love them. Here's a couple of hints on ways to show them. So I would write them letters, put it into words how you feel about them. Send cute texts from time to time if you guys text often. Compliment them without a reminder. That's one big way to show that you're thinking of them. Use different ways and phrases. Come up with different ways to say that you love them and tell them regularly. One thing I would do is just leave a cute note or something before heading out of the house saying like, have a good day, honey, I love you, something like that, just to kind of make their day a little bit brighter. Think of how your words will brighten their day. But some things to avoid for people with words of affirmation as their language would be negative comments. They'll really take those to heart. And insults too. Lack of communication will actually just send them into a horrible spiral of anxiety. What did I do wrong? Feeling depressed. And then assuming that the I love you is implied is a big no-no because they need to hear it. They need to see it. And then not taking in the full value of the compliments that they give you shows them that you're kind of just rejecting their love to you. So be really careful of those. Next up, we're going to talk about quality time. This is the need for undivided attention shared directly with your partner. So this looks like taking breaks from work or hobbies just to sit down with them. Watching movies together feels great, and especially Netflix marathons. Those are a fantastic way to spend so much time together and enjoy what you're seeing and what you're doing. Taking them on dates, personal dates that will just leave really good experiences with them. And then really, really important is one-on-one time, no distractions. I'm talking no phone, no games, no TV, no radio. Well, you can probably have radio, but just talking, going on walks would just be a really great way to spend time together and get to make that person feel like they are being appreciated by you. Inviting them to the social gatherings that you are a part of. So like family reunions, work parties, those would be awesome to invite them to. Just give them good memories with good experiences. But some things to avoid would be making it seem as though your priorities are just somewhere else. You are totally distracted by work all day long, never paying attention to them. Work is your priority. Work is your baby. They will get so jealous of your job. They will just get angry and eventually just pissed off. And then distracting yourself while spending time together or during conversation is so harmful to a relationship when you are with somebody who has quality time as an attribute. And then taking too much time apart, long distance relationships would be really hard on somebody with quality time as their language. And then taking their quality time for granted and failing to cherish it, it really hurts them. It just feels like you're throwing away their love. So definitely avoid all of those things. So there's receiving gifts, and they love something tangible that comes with thought and good intent. So surprise them. It doesn't have to be a set of diamond earrings or a new set of kitchen knives. It can just be something that comes from the heart. Like I said, something tangible. Make it thoughtful. Don't give them just anything. Don't give them garbage. And pay attention to little hints that they drop, because oftentimes they'll mention like, oh, I really want this, or this would be really nice. But in actuality, you should be paying attention and just remember their favorites, their favorite color, their favorite flavors, smells, and learn their sizes and preferences. But don't give them anything because it's cheap, just because you like it. If it's useless or thoughtless, they're gonna feel like, why did you give this to me? It's kind of not that great. Don't forget their birthday, or if you guys celebrate Christmas or any other present giving holidays, that would be really a big disaster for you. You'll never hear the end of it. And then if you give them something that they have previously expressed that they don't like, think like, I hate chocolate cake. Don't give them a chocolate cake for their birthday. And please do not forget to take in the value of gifts that they give to you, because as I've said before, Their love language is their way of saying that they love you. Next up is my own love language, acts of service. And this is when actions become your words. Completing tasks and doing things that your partner will appreciate and having an upbeat attitude about doing these actions. This is just one way that they will receive and reciprocate love. Things that you can do for them are things like chores and helping around the house, cooking for them. If you're not much of a cook, then you can pick up things for dinner. Offering things without being asked, like if they're cold, you bring over a blanket because you can just tell that they're cold. Help them when you know that they're struggling, even if they don't ask for it. But something that you shouldn't do with them is completing a task, but in a negative approach. Don't feel like it's an obligation. Don't have a bad attitude about it. Just do it and be calm, be kind. And then waiting to have to be asked to do things. You should try and find things that you can do without having to be asked. And try not to dismiss or ignore services they've done for you, because those are really important ways that they're saying, hey, I appreciate you. Finally, we have physical touch. This doesn't mean that you have to be all over each other all the time. It just means that the sense of feeling their partner's touch makes the heartbeat just a little faster. Things that you can do for them are simple things like hugs from behind, little butt squeezes, kisses often, surprise kisses. Holding hands in public makes them feel really great. Definitely time in the bedroom if you're intimate with them. Subtle touches, hand holding, cuddling, all of those are just great ways to say, I love you. And try not to avoid physical contact or shy away from their approaches that they make to you, because that's going to feel like they're like, oh, you don't love me back. And then don't miss the meaning in their embraces. This is their way of communicating like that they absolutely just love you or they adore you, they are affectionate towards you. Even though you should always reciprocate their touches, try not to only reciprocate. Find your own chances to interact with them. And if you're curious about your own love language, you can find yours at 5lovelanguages.com. Coming up next, I will be sharing with you my top 5 dating apps to try out if you're over 50, and anyone can try these out, so stick around and we'll come back after the break.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back. So, by now, we should all be gurus of the love language. We finished talking about what love language is, and we even dove into each of the 5 love languages in detail. And this is great even if you're not in a relationship yet and trying to pursue one. So, let's talk dating apps. So since we've talked about getting back out there, starting new relationships, and how to read love language, why try a dating app? There's so many benefits to using a dating app. I met my own partner through Tinder, and I am proud to say it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. So using it, you can use it to meet new people, especially if you're not in education anymore after you've graduated, because it becomes so much more difficult after leaving school to find somebody new. You're not in a bustling community that's constantly changing, and you're forced to sit together in class. So opening up your community to online helps you locate people usually within your area. You can oftentimes set the boundaries of which you're looking at, and you can get to know people near you that you wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to meet. And you might even end up dating someone you wouldn't usually go for, which can not always be a bad thing. It can definitely add a little bit of spice to your dating life and your profile. And there's all these opportunities come with the extra bonus of not feeling like you have to be tied down to the very first person that you meet. It's very easy to move on from people once you decide that they're not right for you when it is in a dating app, because it's as simple as turning off the conversation, ending the conversation, and just not responding. Dating apps really make finding the right person fast. It's efficient. It just saves so much time when you're trying to figure out if this person is right for you. You just started out with a conversation. You don't have to go to a mixer. You can just sit at your desk and swipe through, and maybe your finger gets tired, but hey, that's a lot easier than having to look at a mixer. And if you've lost your social touch or never had it to begin with, you can practice your communication skills by striking up a conversation with different matches, and you don't even have to meet them first. So it really takes that awkward social barrier out of the way. So let's talk my top 5 over 50, but also for anybody, dating apps. Number 1, ladies, this is for you. Bumble. So you can check out other singles in your area, and you just look at their profile, which contains a reel of pictures and a bio. You swipe right when you like and left to say next. And in this case, 2 rights make a right because you have yourself a match. Ladies, you gotta message the men first. Sorry, but you're the one sticking your neck out there on this one. Bumble is a ladies first kind of dating app. In the case of a same-sex match, it's fair game. Whoever messages first, messages first. Next, number 2, I have Hinge. With a slogan like designed to be deleted, this app is rumored to be one of the more serious ways to find a relationship with an app. It starts by asking you questions about your life, like how many kids do you have? What is your job? What are you looking for? What's your religion? And then it uses its smart algorithm. It's a unique smart algorithm to find daily matches for you. So it's actually doing all of the work for you. So on number 3 of the list, I have Coffee Meets Bagel. If you haven't heard of this one, it's a little bit more low-key, but it's very good if you're trying to find a more serious community, because these people are looking for other singles to get into a relationship with. This one also contains a smart algorithm, and you'll get smart matches every single day. This app is unique because it also generates personalized icebreaker questions to skip the awkward small talk once you match with somebody and enter their direct messages. And it actually helps you get to know somebody a lot better than just swiping right on Tinder and you guys never even talk because you have no idea what to talk about. So with Coffee Meets Bagel, all it is you swipe, you get a match, enter the DMs, you just slide on into those DMs, send them the icebreaker. It's so easy. It's personalized for both of you. And that starts off a conversation, and there you have it. You already have your first conversation. Maybe it leads to a relationship. Maybe it's just some practice, but it works so well. Next, we have number 2 on our list. Getting excited for number 1, me too. And this is Single Parent Meet. Now, this is more for, you guessed it, single parents, and it's not a very high-tech app. It doesn't have that smart algorithm, but it is a community that really narrows down if you're looking for somebody who also understands the single parent life. You can get to know other single parents in an understanding community, browse profile pictures and their bios. It's kind of like Facebook, so you get to see what's going on with everyone. And it claims to connect with other single parents in as little as 2 minutes. So you're not even wasting a super bunch of your time on this. It's so fast and simple. You'll just snap right through it and boom, single parents meet. All right, number 1 on my list. It's a cliche, but it'll always be my number 1, and that is Tinder. You can find so many people on Tinder. All you have to do is create a simple profile that consists of like a couple. It could just be one. It could be 0. But a couple profile pictures. And then you write a short little bio about yourself. Nothing too much, nothing too little. Just to get a little precursor to some conversation. And then I swear that this is the laziest dating app. If you're lazy like me, all you have to do is swipe. Left if you are going to pass on them, you're not into them, and then right if you're like, yep, this is right for me. So Tinder, laziest, it's already great. And then when you have 2 people swiping right on each other, boom, that's a match. And that's where one of the 2 of you have to brave it and slide into those DMs, because otherwise you will never talk to that person. And what was the point this whole time, right? So slide into their DMs, look at their bio, look at their pictures. Do they have a pet? Ask them about their pet. Do they have where they went to school? Tell them, hey, I went to school there, or hey, what's it like going to school there? You could bring up what their favorite food is, or really just any simple question is a great way just to start a conversation with a new Tinder match. And it also has a unique feature called super likes. And this is a limited amount that you can use, but you hit super like, and regardless of whether or not the person swipes right on you and matches with you, they will open up their app. The next time they open it up, they'll see it'll flash bright blue with a big star over it, and they'll see your face. And they think, oh, that person really likes me. They really want my attention. So that's a really cool way of saying like, hey, I really think you're cool and I really want to talk to you and I'd like to get to know you. There's a lot of different options. There's premium options, and you can set your own distance around you to find, you can go farther for people. You can say, hey, I don't even want to walk out of my neighborhood to find somebody. And it's just a really easy way with a really simple design. If you are single and ready to get back out there, I highly suggest you check these out. Even though I crafted this list specifically for 50 plus, that does not limit it. It's so great. It's such a great list for anybody except, well, single parents. Please only go on that if you're a single parent. Don't mislead. Don't catfish. But other than that, find what's right for you. Anyone can use these. Finding the right dating app takes time, and if you have other ones that you like, that's totally fine. You can use more than one. But online dating is just such a fantastic way for you to experience dating without all the hassle, without all the nervousness and the anxiety. You don't have to sweat as much, and you can just be yourself, and kind of have that safety net of having a screen between you. And it's kind of a nice way to be safe too, but just remember, if you are online dating, be safe, because there are predators out there. There are people who aren't what you're looking for, and just meet in public places. And especially right now with COVID-19 and the Stay Home Act, just make sure that you're being safe. If you do need to go on a date with them, stay 6 feet apart. Keep that social distance and just try to stay home. Keep it at home until things get a little bit better, because we all want to stay home and stay safe. So a big reminder to everybody that it is stay home right now, stay inside, stay indoors, and wear face masks if you need to go out. No matter if you're online dating or not, there's nothing wrong with doing fun things like video chat dates. Totally fine. So remember, be safe, and thank you for listening to the GSMC Relationship Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really, really helps us, and I would really appreciate that. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you again. Stay home, stay safe, and remember to have a fantastic day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.GSMC.com. GSMCpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.